Welcome you to the July 28th, 2015 meeting of the McMinnville City Council. If you have cell phones on, we ask that you silence your cell phones at this time and also refrain from either texting or accepting or sending calls. And if you need so to go out and lobby, we are being recorded digitally for replay on McMinnville Community Media on both Verizon or Frontier and Comcast. So that being said, if you do need to take a little break, we ask that you do so outside. If I could go ahead and, now that I've called the meeting to order, if I can get Councilor Menke to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Kelly. Now's the time that we ask citizens who would like to speak to the council on anything that is not on our agenda tonight to come forward. You'll see, if I can get Rose to scroll down a little bit, you'll see there's a certain number of things that we cannot take any testimony or comments on tonight. And that, if it's a topic already on our agenda, we ask for you to wait to that agenda item. If the city is currently in a matter in litigation, we can't discuss anything that the city's in litigation in. Any quasi-judicial land use matter such as a zone change, conditional use, or anything like that, or if we've scheduled a matter for a public hearing at a future date, we'll let you know that, and we can't accept any information on testimony on that. And of course, I can, as mayor, I will limit the comments of these, duration of these comments if I feel they're getting a little bit too far, taking too long. So the first thing on our agenda, we'll move on to new business, and the first thing on our agenda tonight, Kevin. Oh, yes. You certainly can. I'm sorry I didn't see it. And what we do is ask you to state your name and address for the record, and then digitally, and for the digital record, and then sign in. Thank you, Kevin.
My name's Jim Galba. I live at 524 Southwest Drumwood Avenue. Today, Senate Bill 460 was signed into law, I believe, and which is early recreational sales of marijuana through medical marijuana dispensaries. There's a city or county may adopt ordinance prohibiting the sale of limited marijuana retail products as described in this section. I was wondering what you guys were thinking, if you're going to go through a public hearing process, or I need to know where you guys are at so I can move forward.
Who would like to give an update? Do you want to give an update on that, Martha, and then Candace, if you have any additional information?
Yeah, and we'll bring it up to the council, one, whether we want to restrict at any time, place, or manner on the sale of, that's what the House bill allowed. And then also whether or not, for once January hits, whether we want to take the chance for the 3% sales tax as well. But that, we do plan to bring that forward to the council.
Senate Bill 460 you do?
We will bring our own ordinance to the council as far as how we want to react to Senate Bill 460.
What does that mean?
Just like you'll hear tonight, whether or not we want a noise permit, or we're going to have an ordinance discussion on whether we want to ban loaded handguns from our parks. Well, same thing. We'll bring up whether or not we want to pass an ordinance, much like on marijuana, where we did time, place, and manner restrictions. Mm-hmm. Same thing.
Okay. So when's that going to hit?
I don't know the specific date yet.
Okay.
It will be sometime this fall, probably. It could be as early as September, wait. As late as November.
I own a medical marijuana dispensary. I can sell to the public in October, but it gives you guys the ability to just say no if you wanted to. So.
Candace, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah.
I'll have our city attorney respond to that one.
It's just true that we just haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
It's, it is still relatively new. It took them a fairly long time to come up with what they were going to do. at the legislature, and we just aren't there yet. We haven't addressed it with the council yet to find out
Are
what
you
it
familiar
is
with
that
Senate
they
Bill
want.
460?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And 3400 too, right?
Yeah.
And they just passed in July, so we're now responding to that.
Yeah.
So we will be on it. We're talking, staff is talking, but we haven't addressed it with the council yet. I'm leaving fairly soon. It's my goal to actually have this, at least something in front of the council before I go. So if that happens, it'll be before the end of September.
So so you're going to deal with 460 first and then move on to 3400?
I would anticipate doing everything as much as possible in one fell swoop. I don't know
Okay.
that we can do that. That's my goal.
Right. Okay, I guess, I don't know what it would take if there's any way to expedite that for October. I know the OHA's got to make rules around this and very quickly because October is just right around the corner for the rec. But there's a lot of preparation on my end and things that need to go along with that, so.
Yeah, I understand that. And we've had some other interested people too. And it isn't fair to leave anybody hanging. So we'll work as quickly as we can, but we're not there yet.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else would like to address anything in front of the council tonight that may not be on our agenda? If not, we'll move forward then. And under new business, we have a request by the Portland Karting Association for a noise variance. And
Did we do the minutes yet?
no, I don't see them on my agenda either.
What was that?
The minutes.
We have minutes?
Not in there.
I didn't.
Okay.
Oh, that's why they're not on there. Very good. We have not addressed, Scott, we have not addressed minutes because we have no minutes to address.
Thank you.
I figured I couldn't miss minutes on the agenda. Thank you, Rose. Okay, that will then take us to, again, the new business, and this is a request by PKA for a noise variance. So Candace?
We have a request from Mike Reese with Portland Karting Association for a noise variance for some karting events at the fairgrounds in September. And I believe Mr. Reese is here, but I don't, wonderful. I would love it if he could come up and tell you about
Yeah,
his
and
event and his
If we can go ahead
request.
and have you sign in on the paper for the hard copy and state your name and address for the digital record.
My name is Mark Reese. My address is 704 Northeast Galloway Street here in McMinnville. And I represent Portland Karting Association. I'm the vice president of Sprint, and I'm on the board of directors as well. I've been communicating with Candace. I actually put a quick letter together because I didn't know if you had forwarded that or what the protocol was, so I brought a couple of things. All right if I pass them?
Sure.
Okay. First item is just a letter with the facts. The second item is our notification to the citizens that are in the area.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
And that was all the copies that I had, so I don't know if anybody else needs those or not.
No, I think as long as the council has one, we're fine.
So basically, we run events there pretty frequently during the summertime, and they're all daytime events. We just felt like it'd be a good neighborly thing with the new apartments across the street on Lafayette to request a noise variance for that evening, because that is our only night race of the season, and it'll run to approximately 10 o'clock with engine noise and announcer voice. So what I put together was a flyer that we're going to pass out to the tenants in the new apartments, we've already visited with the manager there, and she does not feel like there will be any kind of problems with us since we've already been there. But we wanted to make it formal, so we're going to pass out this notice to them also. And that's what you have a copy of. It's just basically we are warning them that we have the only night race of the 2015 season. Engine noise and public address system will end at about 10 p.m. And we're asking them to actually join us free of charge to come and meet us, come and visit with us, and to view the event. So hopefully we can be good neighbors to them. Any questions?
Okay, we have any questions? You have any questions, Remy?
When do you plan on distributing this? I see you say before July 30th.
Yep.
Okay, and
Tomorrow.
how far are you planning on distributing?
We're going to do the only residences that are going to be notified, that need to be notified, if I understand the ordinance for the city, is the new apartments, and there's also some apartments to the west of them, which we'll be distributing this to also.
Okay, that's my only question.
Okay, Alan?
No questions, pretty thorough.
Thank you.
Scott?
And I know we talked at our dinner meeting a little bit about going till 10 o'clock. You say approximately, you know, the ability to get the carts from the raceway to their transportation to take them out. Could it go to 10:30 of them firing up and putting in trailers?
It could go till 10:30, but not because of transportation to the trailers. The carts are all lifted and put on stands and carted from the last place they're running as they pull off the track, and we weigh them at the end of the races. And then from that point on, shouldn't be any engine noise. They don't have to drive them onto trailers, but there'll be truck noise, there'll be people noise. And then we have our trophy presentation, which is over the loudspeaker. So yes, the noise could go to possibly 10:30.
I think it says here, though, that the public address system, which I take be part of the award of trophies and everything, will end at 10 p.m.
Yeah, that's correct. That's our goal.
Okay.
So Larry, let's go down to you.
I have no problem with it.
Okay, Kelly?
Sounds good to me. Thank you for putting it so nicely together.
Kevin?
A couple questions. What are the age brackets and things like that for this event? Or it's just
Oh, I'm glad you asked.
kids or adults or?
It's actually ages 5 to 70. We have actually 2 of our youth racers that are here. Both of them trophied this weekend at the race down in Canby. Mason Smark and Bryce Smark, and that's their father. Mother couldn't be here. She's got a broken foot. Otherwise, she's a very valuable part of that race team as well. So, Bryce, you're 5? 6. Bryce is actually 6, but we have racers that start at the age of 5. And we actually have a couple of champions that are actually at 70 years old that race very, very competitively.
Okay.
And it's everything in between, and we run 4-stroke engines and we run 2-stroke engines, and they all run the required mufflers and silencers as well. I put some of the facts in the letter. Our requirements from our governing body are that we cannot exceed 92 decibels at 100 feet, 4 feet off the ground, perpendicular to the exhaust noise. That's our governing body, and the state of Oregon actually has an ordinance that allows them to go to 105 decibels at trackside. And we took some measurements with an app on our cell phones, and we hit 74 at the apartments.
I want to make clear that I'm supportive of this, and I love that you're getting the youth involved and getting them outside and doing something other than playing with a tablet or something. That's awesome. I do have a few concerns, and it's probably not with your association, but just with the noise that has gone out there. I've heard complaints from neighbors even further west, all the way out to the 18th Street about noise out there. And it may have been the motorcycle race that they had a couple of months back or years back. So I just wanted to put that out there that I've heard some noise complaints from people out in that neighborhood. And I would have preferred that there would have been some notice to those areas before it came to the council. And I've made the same with the Knights who played on 4th of July, and I'm going to be kind of consistent with that. That I'd rather see engagement with the community before it comes to the council. I know we post notice of this meeting, but I feel like it's really the people who want to host this event. It's their responsibility to be that great neighbor. That said, I really respect you for opening your doors to those people, saying, come and enjoy this and be with us. And if it's going to bother you, I'd rather, you be with us than at your home being bothered by it. So it sounds like you're doing everything right, but as a matter of principle, I wish that you're going to distribute the notice tomorrow. I think it would have been better if you'd done it today. I would have been a lot happier with it. But so that's kind of where I'm at. I wish you luck, and I hope it's a great event, but I'm just going to have to be principled on that one.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks, Kevin. I can say that I did talk to some of the people from the county, and they've expressed that they're very great satisfaction of working with Portland Karting Association on the events. I think we're very fortunate when I look at every place else where those races could be held, and we're very fortunate they're being held in McMinnville. I know I've talked to some of the, especially the Northtown merchants over the last couple of years, and how much revenue that brings into some of the Northtown, especially Northtown merchants. And I think that area, the county fairgrounds out there, is probably the best place to have this kind of event. And if we think this noise is loud, just go downtown and listen to the bands at the county fair. You can hear them all the way downtown. So, but I'm a full supporter in this. Hopefully we're going to get out there ourselves and see it. But I think, this is the first one, and hopefully everything will go off well, and we'll see if it works out. So I'm all for granting the ordinance. So Candace, do we have a reading on the ordinance, or can we just do it by affirmation only?
What you need to do is direct me to write a letter to Mr. Reese, letting him know that the council has approved his request.
Okay, will you do that, please? And this will be the request by the Portland Karting Association for a noise violation. So if you can write that letter to Mr. Reese and let him know. And so when you get, I guess now informally, the council is approving it, and you'll be getting a letter from the city attorney saying it's been approved.
Thank you very much.
Okay, council, that takes us into item number 2. We have one ordinance on the agenda tonight, and that's ordinance number 4991, restricting the carrying of loaded firearms in public places pursuant to Oregon state law and declaring a emergency. I know we discussed this a little bit at the dinner meeting, but what I'd like to do is take that discussion a little bit further in our open session. And let's go ahead, and Larry, why don't we start down at your end of the table?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have any problem with this. I have a lot of concerns about people carrying guns because of all the shootings that are going on in the country, across the country. And I know we're a small town here, and we've been relatively safe. But I guess I don't like to encourage people to carry loaded guns. So I don't know that it's necessary to carry a loaded gun. I don't have any problem with people carrying guns. I just don't like them loaded. So that's kind of where I'm coming. That's my thinking right now. I can support this. I don't know that it's going to change anything based on what we've learned as far as enforcement of it and things like that. But I'd like to hear more what our enforcement people from the police department and the Parks and Rec have to say too.
Okay, Kelly, if you don't mind, let's drop back a little bit and let's hear from both Jay and Matt. So Jay, why don't we start with you?
Well, I think you know now that we have on our ordinance department and on our signage, we have your kind of language that we can't hold up. So the next best problem for us is to assess what the state statute does allow. I think Candace has probably reviewed that with you. I take my lead from my partners at the police department. We talk a lot with Dennis Morris, and of course from Candace, who can give us the legal background of what we can and can't do. I don't have any empirical data that says this ordinance or this kind of language will absolutely change a thing. I do feel that, just instinctively, that it's a step toward or a step closer to what we did have previously posted, that I think gives confidence to those who visit our parks, and that is weapons, when it was previously posted, that has weapons not allowed. In this case, firearms, because there are other weapons we deal with, believe it or not, but because it deals with firearms, we're talking about those this evening. I think the public has more confidence when that ordinance is posted in that manner, and so by understanding that people can carry openly, by saying that weapons may not be loaded with the exceptions that Candace has outlined, I think just keeps us as close as possible to being as safe as possible. But again, I don't have the empirical data to say. I have talked to other park and rec directors from throughout the state. Some don't have anything posted. Some, like us, have said we have to change our language and we'll probably move toward some kind of restriction, but it has yet to be determined. So I think everybody's kind of flexing with this a bit and trying to take a positive avenue. So I guess for me, I think it's my obligation to do or direct the language of our signage in the legal way toward what we think will keep us as safe as possible. And that's why we're proposing what we're proposing.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Chief Scales.
Yeah, I would concur with Jay. This is, we want our parks safe. We want the patrons of the park to feel safe, especially the children. This is, I think, a very good option with the carry but unloaded. Again, I don't, the data does not suggest that we're going to be dealing with people that are carrying open in the parks more than we have before. In fact, in my 22, 23 years here, we don't encounter it a whole lot. We will still have the ability, if somebody calls, as proposed in the ordinance, to go and investigate if somebody's acting in a manner that causes somebody to be suspicious, or maybe they're not, maybe they're mentally unstable, things like that. We will still have the ability to go and investigate. I think, again, if somebody, I would concur that I think Candace has brought the best forward, and also that signage, I think, is important. Educating the public is important. I think that's our job. We've educated over the years, as whether it's up to you whether you want to include that in the signage, but I think education's powerful. I think everybody being on the same page, everybody understanding where the city stance is critical to communicating with the public. So as proposed, I think it's the best option we have.
Okay.
Hope that answered your questions.
Thank you, Matt. Kelly, let's go ahead and continue, and let's go on to you.
When I first heard about this, I guess because it just seems to be a further abstraction of it, but I like the education piece. You are correct, even though the public is supposed to know what the law is, they don't always know what the law is. So based on that, I agree that maybe this should be changed.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. Kevin, let's go to you.
Sure. My first thoughts on this, I keep thinking back to some of the instances we've had in the country, and it seems like those people who want to do harm are picking the most vulnerable places to do it. And I'm not saying that this law will prevent that, but I'll sleep better at night knowing that if that were to ever happen here, no one would come up to me and say, there wasn't even a law to prevent loaded weapons in these parks, and if I imagine that, I think it's so clear. Like, I have to look that person in the eyes and say, yeah, we had a law that prevented that. Things like this happen, but we did all we could to protect those kids. And just a point of clarification, though, this if we were to adopt this ordinance, would a concealed carry permit still allow a loaded weapon in the park?
Yes, it would. The
Okay.
state law allows someone with a concealed firearm permit to carry a loaded weapon in a concealed fashion anywhere.
And I'm absolutely okay with that. And so that said, people who have concealed carry permits are already practicing gun safety and are following the law by doing that. And I think that's admirable. And I don't have a problem with that at all. So, so I would feel comfortable adopting the ordinance as written.
Candace, I have a follow-up question on that. The concealed carry, that means that even though they have their concealed carry permit, they cannot carry it exposed. Or they can carry it either concealed or exposed.
Yes, if you have the concealed.
So you can carry it any place on your body, either exposed or concealed. Okay. Thank you, Scott.
I think I feel much like my fellow council individuals. I had grandkids here last week and a half, and so spent a lot of time discovering Meadows. Besides walking around it in the morning when hardly anyone's there, I was down in the sand. And I'll tell you, we talk about a public place. You've got kids galore in the summer. And Donna went over with the kids over to Wortman Park. And I mean, our parks are being used the way we want to. And kids are running free and moms are trying to keep control of them, but they're all over. So again, I think we need to make it the safest place we can, because I think we're probably more vulnerable at parks than any other public place. And we talked about, where do you draw the line? Well, I don't see kids running, at the community center. That's more probably adults. Parks are the area where I just see kids in big numbers, and so I can agree with what we have in front of us tonight with.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Alan?
I got a question for Chief Matt. Chief, what is the protocol of your department when it receives a call from a concerned mother or individual, anybody, that comes down and notices a firearm, whether it's loaded, unloaded, they can see? Do they handle every call as important? And what's your protocol from that point?
Well, I think it's important to note, we will respond to any call for service just because, so our protocol will be the same. We will respond to the call. It'll probably depend upon kind of the background knowledge of the call, whatever the caller is complaining about, like I spoke about earlier, mental illness or acting out in a bizarre manner. That'll probably heighten our response. But we will go out and we will talk. Nothing prohibits us from talking to somebody or attempting to start a dialogue to ensure that they're safe to have the firearm. So I want you to take to heart, we will be there irregardless of whether or not somebody is carrying open, whether it's concealed or not. We don't know whether they're, if it's concealed, we will obviously investigate that and make sure that they have a concealed weapons permit. And if it's an open carry, we will, and they're acting out, or somebody's got a concern, we will go and investigate to ensure that the park is safe for everybody.
So once you show up, you can make a determination on site what the situation is and act accordingly within your parameters.
Right. Well, we do not have the ability, if somebody's carrying open in the park, to take the firearm from them and inspect it to see if it's loaded or not. That is not there. If we develop probable cause or reasonable suspicion to that nature, then we can investigate further. The person does not need to talk to us. They could, if it's just, if for some reason somebody just says, hey, somebody's got a weapon in the park, we can check them out. They do not have to talk to us. So I want to be clear about that. They can walk away. They're not forced to sit and talk with us, but at least they know we're there and that we're aware they're there. I think that's important to note also.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Alan. Remy?
Well, I'll be completely frank, though. When this initially came before us, I was kind of frustrated in the sense that we were taking city staff time and government dollars to, city dollars to have to recreate these signs. Although I understand that technically they weren't in line with the state law. I think the sentiment of what they were trying to express was that the parks are meant to be kept safe, and so I hate to see us spending even small dollars out of our city budget. What I think is somewhat ironic, part of this is if this ordinance, passes, then, with the passing of this ordinance, that, the language which was somewhat vague, and will become more concise is actually more restrictive. And I think that irony should be noted. Of course, as everybody else has said, I am in support of our department heads. If they feel like this is what's going to make our parks safer, then I will support that, and follow the recommendation.
Hey, thank you, Remy. As I looked at this, I had some of the same concerns that Remy had. You know, I guess what bothers me a little bit is, I understand, because we always think of the kids in the parks and, you know, letting everybody know that awareness that this is a child-friendly place and a people-friendly place. But I think if we really look, the way it's crafted, the ordinance is crafted, where we can't just say parks, it's all public property. The fact is I think that, and I could be totally wrong, but I think that statistics will show that the more types of shootings we have are at building complexes, public building complexes, police departments, now we talk the recruiting stations, federal buildings, state buildings, with parks having the least number, other than gang type shootings, the least number of shootings. So I'm not against this all. What I want to do is make sure that we're not giving people the sense that our parks are safer, but yet they could be standing here in front of City Hall, and since we don't have signage up, it doesn't apply to, you know, somebody thinking, well, it applies to the city because we have the signage up, and they should know the law, and I think everybody should know the law, but there's not a sign, maybe where we need it most, in front of some of the government buildings. So that's, I guess, that's the part I'm really struggling with. I'm certainly not against it, but to me it brings up a bigger issue, is if we're going to really post it at the parks, why aren't we posting it in other places? You know, so I'm certainly, because of that, not going to recommend that we turn this down, because I think it's a great thing, and I agree with what Jay said, but I hope we're just not creating a touchy-feely type of situation where people feel safer in the parks when they have just as much chance of standing in front of any other public building or structure. So that's just my feeling. So that being said,
Mayor, can I interrupt you?
Yes, go ahead, Candace.
I drafted this ordinance really late at night, and I just realized that I made a mistake, and I'm terribly embarrassed. In the title, it says, "and declaring an emergency."
I was going to ask you about that.
Yes, we do not have an emergency clause on this ordinance, and I'm really sorry, and Rose and I will fix that. Oh, thank you, Rose. We can fix that tomorrow, and I'm really sorry, but when we read it by title only, I will be omitting that part.
Okay, so what I will do is I will, first of all, ask for a motion that we approve ordinance number 4990.
Are you going to allow comment from the people?
It's an ordinance. We don't have to, but I'll open it to comments if you want to, as long as they're brief and don't take 45 minutes to an hour.
I won't.
Good. Go ahead and please sign in and state your name and address for the record.
Okay, my
While
name is
he's
Mark.
doing that, what's the new effective date on this?
The effective date will be, what's today, the 27th?
27.
It's the 26th then, of August.
28.
27th, August 27th, then is that what
Oh,
we're talking about?
today's the 28th, then 27th.
27,
I
30
I counted
days.
them and I knew it was one day shy,
Okay.
but
Okay, please state your name and everything for the record. And
Thank you. My name is Mark Lawrence. I'm a citizen of McMinnville. And this concerns me a lot because I think that, first of all, almost everybody addressed this in the context of a park, because that's maybe an easy sell, but everywhere else in the public that's owned by the city seems to be probably much more extreme, which is, I suspect, why it wasn't being addressed.
We're not talking about keeping guns from felons, because the chief will tell you that's already illegal. We're not talking about people that are mentally ill. They already can't carry guns. People with restraining orders, stalking orders, children, all of those people already can't carry the gun. And so what we're talking about is law-abiding citizens, people that are adults, people that are good members of society, people that, for example, are vulnerable victims. How about a woman that's been raped before and she doesn't want to be raped again? And so she chooses to carry a weapon and maybe even have it displayed to let people know she's not messing around. Or old people that are particular victims, or female students, lawyers, teachers, truck drivers, judges, councilmen. I mean, there's a lot of people who might want to exercise their right of self-defense. The reason the chief's gun's loaded is because an unloaded gun doesn't do you any good whatsoever unless you're going to club somebody with it, you know? I mean, so that's sort of silly. You're taking the right of the people to carry a gun at all. Not only does, and I suspect Ms. Haynes, and by the way, I'm very sad to hear you're retiring. You've been wonderful as it relates to our interactions always. Bright, insightful, and you guys are no better than I do.
We're sorry too.
Yeah. But the federal Constitution gives people the right to keep and bear arms. The state Constitution, if you haven't checked, talks about the right of self-protection and protection of the state. The founders contemplated citizens protecting the state, helping the police. And so I have to tell you, businesses can exclude people who they don't want to have guns, no shirt, no shoes, a gun, no service. You know, they can already keep people out. I have a stack of NRA magazines, because I read it when it comes in every month. And there's one page where people have lawfully used their weapon to protect themselves. And there are myriad examples of people protecting themselves and other people. If you think somebody who's going to go into a theater and shoot somebody is going to go, "Dad, blast it, I can't bring my gun there because there's an ordinance," you're fooling yourself. What you've done, you're preventing the law-abiding citizen from being present and maybe stopping that person from killing 10 or 15 people. The criminal isn't going to stop. The criminal's not going to stop by carrying something in the park. But maybe a law-abiding citizen who otherwise may have had a weapon may be prevented from being there. And so two councilmen and women have talked about there not being empirical data. And I would ask you to not take a vote until you actually get some empirical data, because I think you're going to find the overwhelming numbers are going to be law-abiding citizens that have a weapon, rarely go nuts and shoot people that shouldn't be shot, but they do save lives all the time. And so when you talk about vulnerable people in the park, Councilman Yoder was talking about that, and everybody wants the kids to be safe in the park, and we all want to, you know, run with your dog and be safe. But that's where these people prey on, are those vulnerable places. And so the police can't be everywhere. And so citizens can be there. So I would just ask you to maybe, let's look for some data and let's look for some empirical proof of things. And, you know, and if the evidence warrants it, then I'll stand aside and say, go ahead. But I'd ask you to consider that. So that's.
Okay, stay there, Mr. Rogers. Larry, you have any questions?
No, I am.
How about you, Kelly?
I would prefer not to discuss it, so.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead, Kevin.
You raised excellent points. Sound argument, absolutely. And that's why the point that I made about concealed carry is important. You know, as you well know, this, especially in Oregon, the concealed carry permit is much more rigorous than it is in other states. And you know, accidents happen, even with concealed carry holders. My good friend Jason, Senator Atkinson, got shot in the leg, dropped his gun. You know, he had a concealed carry permit, you know, and it was, accidents happen. So I think in those areas, I think this is a safety step. I'm supportive of having concealed carry and having that permit. I think that, again, proves that level of responsibility as a gun owner and respect for safety as well. So you make good points. Thanks.
Scott.
And I would agree with the concealed permit. I'm in full support of that. In all of my being around the city, I've not seen the carrying of a weapon in our community. In the whole time I've been here, and other than in bank robberies, which I've been a part of a few, but outside of that, so there is an avenue, and that's the concealed weapon permit that allows people to rightfully and safely carry their guns, and I'm in full support of that. But I just don't see in this community, I've not seen the bearing of arms outside of.
So if somebody with a concealed weapon permit and they have a concealed weapon draws their weapon, are they now openly carrying? Are they violating the law now if they take the weapon out?
I was going to say no, and then I looked over to the chief to make sure that he agreed with me. No, if you have the concealed weapons permit, then you're allowed to carry that weapon in any way that you wish to, and it can be loaded. So that is, it's kind of like one grade up from, the average person who can carry a gun but can't carry it concealed.
Okay. Would somebody with shotguns in their back window of their truck, are they openly carrying? Could they not drive through town?
Well, depending on where they were. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the ordinance.
I have not. I haven't seen it.
Okay. What we've said is that loaded guns are not allowed by someone who is not one of the accepted people, EX accepted, not AC accepted, yes. As defined in the statutes. And so the statutes cover hallways, lobbies, and other parts of apartment houses and hotels, highways, streets, schools, places of amusement, parks, playgrounds, and premises used in connection with public transportation. So those are the places where it wouldn't be acceptable, unless you had a concealed weapons permit, it wouldn't be acceptable to carry a loaded firearm. So if you have the gun in the back of your pickup and you're on a street, then yes, you would have an issue. We would have an issue with that.
But if it's unloaded?
If it's unloaded, it's fine.
And if there's ammunition in the car, that's fine. If it could quickly be loaded.
As long as, the way I understand, as long as it's not loaded. Okay. Alan?
You do make some good points, and I agree with some of them. One of the things that I differ from your comments on is that then that basically leaves law-abiding people carrying guns.
We're not carrying guns.
Not carrying guns. So the people that, I don't know if frightened is a good word, the ones I'm concerned about are those who aren't quite either way. They may be young, and they may have some issues for alcohol and drugs, and yet they're law-abiding citizens. But they concern me, that group, who might want to display a gun for the purpose that you said, like the woman who's been raped before, might want to have a gun showing to make a statement. I don't like that at all. I think that just is a build-up for problems. And so those 2 points I disagree with because of what I just said. So.
Remy?
Nope, no questions.
I think we're sitting here in as small of a body as government body as we are. We're sitting here with what I'll consider the great national debate, to or not to. I have mixed feelings. I could side with those that think we shouldn't do it, and I could side with those that think we should do it. And I guess my final comment is, and I made earlier, is if we're going to have this kind of ordinance, I don't want to have an ordinance, and this is just my own personal opinion, I don't want to have an ordinance that makes people feel goody as cool and food about parks, and then not sign public the other way. What happens, I think a good point that I think about is what happens if somebody is carrying loaded and I don't even know if it's got loaded rifles in their truck, you know, in the back window. They're coming from Lafayette, Dayton, they come into McMinnville, and all of a sudden, they're still loaded. What do? Stop and unload them?
That'd be the smart thing to do.
Yeah, but how do they know somebody from out of town realize that McMinnville is not, I mean, I don't know
That's the
answer
part
to
that's,
that.
it's not enforceable, but that does reinforce common sense.
Yeah, I
It would
think,
just be
I
a
think the
really
only
unsafe
advice.
thing to do.
Yeah, Matt, you have to say?
I want to stress, that don't look at the law black and white. Officers are educated, well-educated people, and if somebody's coming from a city outside of Mac and they happen to be carrying a rifle that's loaded, they don't know I mean, we're going to use common sense and not, I mean, we're not going to haul them off, I don't want to say all the time. I mean, if there's some situations that are right, I want you to be aware that we have really good common sense out there, and if there's a reasonable, articulable reason why this person wouldn't know, we take that on face value. We do. So it's not like it's just a blanket, everybody that carries a firearm that's loaded in Mac that is in their pickup truck, they're coming from hunting, we're going to put the gravis on you. It doesn't, I think we're very intelligent. We can come to reasonable conclusions and reasonable, and we think through things, I think, very well. So I just want to put your mind at ease to that.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I guess council, the direction is we have an ordinance in front of us and we're changing it to not declaring it. Thank you very much, Mark. Not striking the declaring an emergency. We have an ordinance on 4991, restricting the carrying of loaded fire in public places pursuant to Oregon state law. We're going to drop and declaring an emergency, so I'll entertain a motion one way or another.
I move. No?
Well, don't we, first.
Mayor?
actually.
Could I make one, can I say?
Yeah, before I ask for the reading. I have to have Candace read it since it's
Okay.
ordinance.
I just want to make another comment because we could delay this, you know, and we've talked about it, delay on this vote, but what would that gain us? Nothing. And I think the confidence that we have in our department heads makes the balance turn in the favor of going ahead and moving forward on it because of their experience. And like I said, it's a never-ending discussions. It's nationwide, worldwide probably, that's no particular answer to, because there's good points on both sides. And
Good point.
I think you have to go with the people who have the feet on the ground involved in it, so.
Okay, so Candace, that being said, if I could have the first reading of ordinance number 4991.
Ordinance number 4991, an ordinance restricting the carrying of loaded firearms in public places pursuant to Oregon state law.
Second reading, please.
Ordinance number 4991, an ordinance restricting the carrying of loaded firearms in public places pursuant to Oregon state law.
Thank you very much, Candace. Rose, can I get you to poll the council, please, and poll the council president last?
Aye.
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 Let it show that ordinance number 4991 passed the council unanimously. Thank you, councilors. That'll take us on to resolutions, and we have two resolutions in front of us. Tonight, the first resolution is a resolution authorizing the approval of a cooperative improvement agreement between the city and the Oregon State Department of Transportation, or ODOT. And this is regarding the 99W and 2nd Street signal replacement project, agreement number 30520. Michael, I'll turn this one over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'll refer you to the brief staff report, as well as the proposed resolution and intergovernmental agreement with ODOT that are contained in your packet. As you noted, this is related to the 2nd Street Improvements Project that was part of the bond measure. As you will recall, that the idea for that project started with ODOT coming to us saying that they wanted to upgrade the traffic signals, and that if we were able to procure the funds to do the roadway improvements, we could do a joint project. The voters approved the bond measure for the roadway improvement part of the funding, and ODOT has proposed the agreement to provide $500,000 for the traffic signal upgrades. The agreement outlines the particulars of that arrangement. The city will be responsible for the project design, bidding and construction, and we will submit invoices to ODOT for reimbursement. So unless there are any questions, I would recommend the council adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to sign the agreement.
Hey, thank you, Michael. We have any questions, Scott?
Mike, when we put the bond measure together and we were looking at that particular project with an approximate cost of 2.6, were we aware that, well, I'm sure we were aware that ODOT would participate. Did we know at what level at that point?
In fact, we did. They came to the table early with that $500,000, so that was built into the assumptions that were included in the bond measure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Let's start here, and Remy.
No serious ones.
No, seriously. Okay, Alan?
No real question on giving the authorization to the city manager to do this. I did have some questions about the project, but I'm not sure that's appropriate right now.
I think those, if it's a short one, you might be able to address it to Mike now, or you might want to visit with him privately, but.
Yeah, that's okay.
Is yours
Okay.
about the roundabout also?
Is that about the roundabout he's planning in mid-block?
I said, is his about a roundabout also?
It's more of a curiosity question on the.
Councilor Yoder.
No further questions.
Kelly?
Shut me
Just,
down right there.
just want to clarify, the 500,000, should that cover the ODOT's portion of it? Are we likely to go over?
No, based on their experience with recent traffic signal projects, that should cover the design of the signals as well as the cost for installation of the signals. So I think it's a pretty solid and fair funding amount that they've brought to the table.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Kevin?
Could you explain what you mean by designing the signals? Because I've seen a lot of signals, and they all look the same.
Timings?
Different.
Well, the mayor's absolutely right. The traffic studies need to be done to analyze the traffic that's going through the intersection, and then the timing for the signal, how much green time is allowed for each phase is based on that traffic work, so.
Okay,
And
that makes sense.
Each pole is a very large piece of steel. It has to have a structurally designed foundation, and so there's a bit of design work that goes into a traffic signal.
I appreciate the clarification, because the way we talk about it, it just sounds like we're gonna design the special hue of red or something like the design for that. I can
The ones
speak-
on 3rd Johnson Street?
When do we expect this project to get started?
So we've selected Murray Smith and Associates to do the project work, design work for us, and later this summer, early fall, we'll work on scope of work and costs with them, and then bring that back to the council for approval before they start. But this project is slated tentatively for construction in the summer of 2017.
Okay. This is a hot topic amongst every Thanksgiving dinner I ever have, with that section of road. So I'm excited for it to go away. Like, Kevin, why don't you fix that?
You all have the bypass and.
I
this
just
done
blame
at the same
ODOT
time.
all the time, so I'm glad that it's gonna get fixed. So 2017 is gonna be a good year.
Okay, hearing nothing more, we have resolution number 2015, and that's resolution 3039. So that being said, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Hill. We have a second by Councilor Menke. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, let it show the resolution 2015-39 passed the council unanimously. Thank you, Michael. That'll take us to resolution number 2015-40, and this is authorizing entry into a contract with Century West Engineering for the development of the fly-friendly program at the McMinnville Municipal Airport. We talked about a little bit about that at our dinner meeting, and Martha, I don't know if you want to talk about this one, or you want Mike to talk about this one, or
I'll
Mr.
take it.
Airport, Mr. Airport over there?
I'll tell you what, let me go ahead and give it to Mike, because I know there's going to be a little discussion, if you could provide as well in the staff report about the time period that these complaints go back to, how long they've been going on, and when they first started to, and got to a tempo where it got up to our notice.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and City Manager. I'll refer you to the very brief staff report that's in the packet, as well as a resolution and a draft scope of work. As way of background, I'm sure as long as the airport's been there, we've dealt with noise complaints related to the use of the airport. Over the last few years, as the helicopter-related businesses have grown at the airport, we have received increasing number of complaints from the neighbors, particularly along the Loop Road area just north and east of the intersection of the runways. And so that is the departure and arrival route for helicopter traffic. We get a varying size of helicopters, from the two-seaters to the very large industrial type helicopters that make varying amounts of noise. And they're descending and either ascending or descending right over these houses, and it's causing concern with those neighbors. Currently, as you know, we have a contract airport manager that works part-time for us while running a business at the airport, and he's done an admirable job trying to address noise complaints. But really what has happened over the last 18 months or so, we've got a group of neighbors that have been increasingly concerned with the noise and perhaps the fact that nothing's being done about it. And so what the Fly Friendly program will do for us, we hope, is create a couple things. First, it'll create, hopefully build some bridges between the neighbors and the airport users so that we can understand each other's needs and perhaps look for solutions that aren't mandated. It will also allow us to create informational brochures that we can share with new airport users that let folks know where the noise sensitive areas are, and so hopefully we can have voluntary compliance on trying to reduce noise issues. But the second piece that the program will develop is sort of an accountability noise complaint process where a neighbor can know that when they lodge a complaint that it's being tracked, and that they can know if there was action taken and what that action was. And so it's really an accountability process to help improve relationships between us and our neighbors. So we've been working on the scope of work and cost for some time. The original proposal was modeled after some work Century West is doing in Bend over helicopter noise and adjacent neighbors. And the cost was about twice what you see before you this evening. That had a much more robust outreach part of the scope of work, where there were a bunch more individual meetings with individual noise complaint folks. And it was really not something that we felt the airport could afford. So we worked overtime to reduce that scope. We're still going to reach out to the folks that are concerned about noise in individual setting, but then we'll have a sort of a more general group setting between airport users and the folks that are concerned, to try to develop solutions rather than a series of individual meetings with each group. So what we have before you tonight has been reviewed by the Airport Commission at their last meeting, and they recommended that the council approve this contract. The funding for this work is contained in the airport fund budget that has been adopted. And you know, I know it looks like a big number, but I think as we continue to grow at the airport, and we know that we hope that business will continue to increase at the airport, now's the time to put a foundation in place that I think builds some of those bridges between the neighbors and the users. And I think it'll be money well spent if we get the good product that I'm hoping we get out of it. And I've included an example of a similar program at Hillsborough Airport. They have a lot of helicopter traffic there in real close neighborhoods. And there's an example in your packet of a brochure that was developed for Hillsborough that starts to help educate both users and adjacent property owners. So I suppose that's a long staff report for a very short resolution, but unless there's questions, I'd recommend the council adopt that resolution, and we'll move forward with the contract with Century West to get that program going later this summer and into the fall.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Let's start, Remy, with you.
Well, I do have some questions and specifically about the amount of money for this, and I was wondering earlier if there weren't some other routes that might be taken, and I hear what you're saying about mitigating future problems, and I wonder with an incoming new FBO, if it would not be appropriate to table this for just 1 or 2 months so that the new FBO could be a part of the creation of this program.
Okay, thank you.
So, kind of a statement, kind of a question. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
And frankly, we've talked about this, and Martha and I have talked about it, and this isn't necessarily overly complicated work, and it's not necessarily work that city staff or the FBO operator couldn't complete. But I think what has happened over time, particularly as the noise has increased, there's not a level of trust between airport and the neighbors. And so a product developed by the city and the airport isn't necessarily going to get the buy-in we hope from the neighbors. And so that's why I think there's value bringing a third party in that has experience developing these programs that can help build the bridge between the city and the neighbors. And there's a cost to that, but I think it's perhaps money well spent to have a third party help build those bridges. I don't disagree with you that we couldn't have the FBO or staff develop it. I just don't think you're going to get the buy-in. You're going to continue to have more upset neighbors, and they're going to continue to want to demand that we stop growth at the airport, that we stop helicopter traffic, that they're going to be in front of you. They're already not so happy with me, and I know they're not happy with our airport manager. And really what I'm hoping is to sort of reset the playing field, get some trust between the parties, and get a product that we have buy-in from both sides.
Well, and that's one of the reasons I was asking about kind of the level of complaints and who is complaining. Not because I'm insensitive to having noise in your neighborhood and that can be disruptive. Actually, I live very near the go-kart, so I'm very aware of the impact of having noise around you. But I was wondering about that level of complaint because, you know, almost $29,000 to spend to appease people if they purchase property adjacent to an airport. It's not that I'm unsympathetic, but it gives me pause to put money, that amount of money at a project. If there is, if there are a few people that purchase property near an airport, but I ultimately, at the end of the day, as you know, I'm a huge supporter of our airport, and I want to promote growth there and business there, and I see it as being a huge asset to our city. So certainly I don't want our citizens to be unhappy with the airport or to view it negatively or to try to restrict anything that's happening. So I am supportive of that community involvement piece, and my hesitation does come at that amount of money, even understanding that it's a far less amount of money than other cities have spent to achieve the same goal. So I have hesitation, I guess, and it's not because it's not because I don't want to see progress being made. Certainly I do. So.
No, understood. I would say, for the most part, this group of neighbors that lives off of Loop Road and to the east of Loop Road, many of them have been there for quite some time, decades. And so they've experienced slow growth at the airport, and it's just the last few years where we've had quite a bit of helicopter traffic that didn't exist before. You couple that with and Martha can speak to this much better than I can, but the facilities we have at the airport are top-notch from a navigation standpoint. We don't have a tower, and so folks that want to train using navigation aids use our airport. And so consequently, in the middle of the night, Life Flight will come and train at our airport for hours. They approach, practice instrument landing in the middle of the night, right over folks' house, and we don't know they're coming because, you know, there's no advance warning that we're going to come train helicopters in the middle of the night at your airport. It's a general aviation airport, has the navigation instruments present, and so people use it. So by creating both an informational piece of document that shares with people that want to come use our airport where our noise sensitive areas are, create the reporting piece where that neighbor can say, hey, what was going on last night? I had a helicopter for 2 hours straight, felt like it was hovering right over my house. That gives information that our staff or airport manager or FBO, we're hoping it'll be the FBO when we get a new FBO operator, can take that information, follow up on it, create a response, create, you know, accountability. And so I understand fully. I do think in the scope of our airport budget, this is money well spent, and the proof will be in the product that we get, and hopefully the relationship we can build with some folks that have been there for a long time. These aren't people that just moved here and now are cranky that they moved next to an airport.
Thank you.
Okay, Alan?
Yeah, I'm in support of that third-party professional, such as Century West, to come in and do what we hope they can do. I guess the question for you, Mike, is do you see any advantage of waiting a couple months till we have a new fixed-based operator to be part of this process of going through it, or do you see any advantage of that at all?
You know, the simple answer is we certainly could wait. The neighbors are already upset on me that I haven't got this work done already. I don't think you'll see a significant change in price from the consultant if we delay while we select an FBO. So if it's at the council's pleasure to wait and see if we can get an new FBO operator and involve them in this process, I don't see a downside to that. So other than I've got a bunch of neighbors that wanted this done already.
You see an upside to it?
I guess I would defer to Martha on that. She's got much more experience in that area than I do.
Yeah, I would say there's probably some upside to it. One, it'll get that FBO operator, since he will be our full-time airport manager at the airport as well. It'll get him ingratiated to the community right away. And it may give us that, as Mike talked about, the chance to build some trust. We get new blood. It's a new start at the airport, and it may be a great way just to initiate things, is to allow him to come in. He comes in, sets up operations, and starts to fly friendly, gets to know the community, and we use that as a tool just to help him be an even better neighbor to the folks out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think if it's marketed right, as Martha said, and even Mike said, you know, the cost wouldn't be different. I think there's a lot to be said of making sure that the new FBO is an integral part. If it takes, I hate to say, if it takes nothing more than the heat off our staff and the residents knowing that we're having a full-time FBO, we're having a professional consulting firm coming in and looking at it. They're going to be working together. I think there's an advantage to it. So Scott.
I think, Mike, you've answered my questions, but I'll go back to the first one. You know, you've talked about an increase in the helicopter volume out at the airport. And you mentioned like life flights coming in at nighttime. You know, I would have thought, you know, when Evergreen was here and they were doing a lot of their trees and lifting, and we'd had more helicopter. So anything else other than like life flight that has increased that volume?
Well, you have airport users that are relatively new to the airport. Jerry Trimble Helicopters has a helicopter school, which is very, very busy.
Okay.
Connect Aviation is at the airport, and they have helicopters as well.
Okay.
Ericsson still has a small presence, although we understand that might be changing. Precision Helicopters out of Newburgh, who has the heavy helicopters at, I think, Chehalem Airfield. They come and train on our navigation instruments because they're available, and they're certainly not present at that private air park, Chehalem Air Park. So, and they'll be during the day. They'll be lifting during the day, or they'll be at night practicing night navigation. So.
Well, that gives me some sense of that increase that you've been talking about. And I think the other piece, and I think you addressed this, is, you know, we ought to do this and then next year take a look and see if it has had a significant impact on what we wanted it to do. I don't think that we just start it and let it blindly go down the path. I think, you know, as Remy had indicated, we evaluate if we're getting the value for the dollars we're spending. I know you so well that you're not going to spend dollars that aren't effective. I mean, you don't have enough dollars, and when you take from one, when you're putting it to one program, it's taking from something else you can do. And I have the greatest confidence that this is something at this particular time is important to do.
Kevin, let's go with you first.
I like the idea of waiting and having this kind of be a package deal with the new FBO. I think it lends credibility to what that person will bring to the community. Though it's already planned that we're going to do this, I think it'll just help them. I don't know. I think it's a good idea. I think the whole thing's a great idea, and I think it lends great credibility to have a third party come in, and somebody who already has a record of solving a lot of these problems. But I would be supportive, given the fact that we're going to be entertaining a new FBO so soon, to just wait a little longer.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Kelly?
Well, as much as I think this is probably long overdue, I too would side with the idea of waiting for the FBO. So
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, Larry?
Well, I'm all in favor and supportive of it, Mike. I do have one question, or kind of a two-part question, I guess. This 28,000, is this a one-time expenditure, or is there going to be any ongoing costs to this?
The contract is a one-time expenditure to develop the program, prepare the printables of the brochure. We would do the printing ourselves and then implement the program, create probably a noise complaint process and forms on our city website so somebody could access them easily. And it would be up to the city and the FBO operator to continue the program into the future. But this really gets us the program set up and the foundation built. And then the kind of the key piece of this is it allows us to bring in noise experts and FAA regulation experts to explain to the neighbors why sometimes these aircraft are operating the way they are. Because I think you'll find that it's pretty rare incidents where you have an operator that's outside of the regulations that they need to follow. It's a pretty serious violation to stray outside of those rules. And as I understand it, it's a pretty difficult achievement to get your licensing and trying to do something to perhaps jeopardize that is they take it pretty seriously. So this, I think, allowing us to explain to the neighbors what's going on and why, and then look for perhaps solutions that, you know, the trainers that are training new helicopter pilots, they can vary their routes, perhaps find a different way to fly at times to minimize and reduce conflict is really what we're hoping to get out of this.
So one other question here. Down the road, let's say 4 or 5 years, because we're talking about, and I agree, bringing a third party in to initiate all this again, is it possible, or is there an option in here somewhere where we may need a third party again to come in and be a mediator or something if we get some really negative reactions?
Well, I think, and again, I'll give you a brief snippet and then sort of defer to Martha, who's dealt with much larger airports. I think it's just a fact of life with a growing airport and a growing city that conflict will happen. And so you have to be nimble and responsive. And I think this is a good step for where we're at now. But I think it's quite possible that down the road, you're going to have to reevaluate, and you may have that new set of neighbors that moves in a new subdivision that wants to be cranky with the city council because the airport's noisy, and we look for opportunities to try to mitigate some of that conflict. But I think it's just going to be a fact of life, and it has been for some time. It's just we've been fortunate that it hasn't risen to a level that the pitchforks and torches aren't in front of you and the airport commission. And we're kind of moving in that direction unless we get a handle on it right now. So I don't know if Martha has anything to add to that.
You know, if depending on what operations are going to come into the airport in the evergreen buildings that are being liquidated right now, so an increase of activity, the type of aircraft that comes in there, more helos are going to bring more complaints. That's just the way it is. And then, of course, if there's any residential development out there that increases the citizens that are next to the airport, that'll bring you more complaints as well. But as Mike said, as things go on, new citizens come in, new people in the airport come in, and we'll probably see this again. Hopefully, we'll be able to mitigate it to where it doesn't rise to pitchfork level. But there is a possibility we may do this again in 4 or 5 years.
As long as the pitchfork isn't loaded.
That's right. Okay, a question, I guess, Candace, this question would be for you. Since we don't have business, can we go ahead and approve 2015-40 with the understanding that it will take place, or it will begin near or after the contracting with an FBO, so we don't have to come back and visit it?
Mike, would you be good with that? I find that awkward, but if
I do
Mike's good
too.
with it and Martha seems to be nodding also, we can make it work.
If we don't get
So-
any,
This is up to the council.
we're gonna put
so-
up for request for proposal for FBO. Do we have an idea? Do we have applicants in there? What if the recruitment fails, basically what I'm saying? I don't wanna postpone this any longer.
We could do this, a time limit when you don't want to go any further than, and then bring it back to you if we want to go, at least do some movement by the beginning of next year. But in reality, the FBO contract will terminate. Something, action has to be done by 1 July of next year. So we will have an FBO contract, or worst case, end by 1 July, and hopefully it'll be earlier than that.
And Mike, do you know how long these people will guarantee this price?
I have no concerns with that. I mean, because of schedules of airport commission meetings and stuff, this price has been on the table for a while, and we've got a good relationship with Century West. They're doing our runway design project, and so it's not like this is an extra effort to have staff involved with the city. So they're working for us, and if the go date is a little bit later than August, they're not going to have issues with it. And if they do, we'll bring it back before you. So.
Well, and I guess that's one of the reasons I asked that question, is because I understand where you're coming from, but I think by just the council approving this resolution of doing it, it does send the message to those people that the city is serious about doing this. It's a timing issue, but we're serious about doing it. So.
But being a year away, are you gonna be able to fend them
No,
off?
I don't think we have to set it a year. I think we.
Well, if you wait till the new operator.
It may not be July 1st. We could have a new operator in before that. It doesn't have maximum of July
It
1st,
would be
correct,
worst
Martha?
case.
Worst case scenario, March 1st. I mean, July 1st.
And
Hopefully, I'd hope by March, but
I thought we were just
Even March
maybe a
seems
couple
a
months
while.
away, but
Depends on how long.
it's hard to get an FBO.
yeah.
Qualified FBO.
I would say if it's gonna be longer than a couple, 3 months, that we move ahead on it right now.
No later than January 1st, I'd say.
Yeah, that's. I don't
Okay,
know
so
how-
we should approve this and that it begins no later than January 1st. And if we don't have an FBO, we just move the process forward anyway.
Okay.
Okay, so if we make that an understanding, you don't need to put that in the actual resolution.
No,
to
Mike
the
will.
Candace. Okay.
Take care of that, I'm sure.
Well, then, I'll entertain a motion, resolution 2015-40.
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner. I had a meeting last week by Councilor Rudin, seconded by Councilor Yoder. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, let it show that resolution 2015-40 passed. It's hard, you think it's bad here, wait till I start calling all the water and light commissioners, I call them counselors all the time. And they do everything totally different. Everything. The resolutions aren't read by title only. Dave Hagerberg or Sam Justice reads the whole resolution. Only once. But it's taken him up to 12 or 15 minutes to read a resolution.
Oh, goodness.
So, okay, that being said, normally we go ahead and address the advice and information items, but we're going to skip that this evening, and I'll excuse the audience and except the media is welcome to stay because we're going to go in to executive session. So we'll take about 4 or 5 minutes, give everybody a chance to leave before we go into executive session, except the media, of course.
Do you want to sign these before I go, or do you want me to pick them up tomorrow?
Yeah.